You're listening to the Full Court Press with your host, Drew Duncan. Don't you dare touch that dial.
Can't touch this. You can't touch this. You can't touch this. You can't touch this.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Full Court Press. I'm your host, Drew Duncan. You guys are checking me out live from the K-Sun Studios out here in Wichita, Kansas. I am on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, all at Drew Duncan 83. And don't forget, tomorrow is Facebook Friday, which means almost all of my segments are Facebook Live. So it's even easier to get your comments in then because you see everything that I'm talking about and you get to give me comments closer to real time. And in the meantime, you can always hit me on my DMs, private messages, that is. You can always hit me in the comment section with questions and comments regarding your favorite team, your favorite players, rival teams, whatever it is. We've got you covered right here on the Full Court Press. Again, I am your host, Drew Duncan, and I am live every Friday for Facebook Friday. Alonzo Carter, coach for the San Jose Spartans, who, by the way, if you look at the coaching staff, he's not even listed as one of the primary coaches, which I think makes this story actually a little bit cooler. I'm going to tell you why here momentarily. People found out, or a lot of his players anyways, that he was actually a backup dancer for MC Hammer. Now, he went on national television recently on the Ellen DeGeneres show and said, hey, look, I wasn't a backup dancer. I was the backup dancer. And he's actually from Oakland, where MC Hammer is from. So obviously they've got a connection, okay? And so Ellen DeGeneres, who, as many people know, loves to donate, never hesitates, is always about supporting people that are in dire need or in bad situations, always supports the military, very active in an array of different communities across the nation. Just an awesome person. Was talking to the coach. They thought that they were just there to do some normal stuff. And then, of course, they find out that they're on national television. They got him up on the big screen. Everybody's going excited. And so she starts talking to Coach Carter, and they start talking about their long hours of community service. And then, of course, she wants to talk to Coach Brennan, the head coach for the San Jose Spartans, who, by the way, is in his first year of coaching. And he talked about what a great guy Coach Carter is, and he loved his energy, and that was the reason why he wanted him to come, was because he knew that that guy was going to be a key element with dealing with the kids and giving back to community. And he's always taken, Coach Carter, he takes kids with him to all kinds of events and just does a lot of community service with these kids. And, it's just awesome to see coaches who can get it right. My last segment, I was talking about coaches who get it wrong. It's good to see coaches who get it right. I remember when I interviewed a few months ago, it was Coach Eric Dobbins, who's head coach of the Southeast Buffaloes right here in Wichita, Kansas, their high school program. And I remember very vividly, he said, I would rather be invited to a guy's wedding than be invited to a guy's funeral. He was like, my guys are going to work hard. They're going to give you everything that they've got. And sure, we want to win. But at the end of the day, the wins and losses on the football field will never compare to the wins and losses off the field. That is an amazing quote. People don't understand that there are still coaches out there who do give a damn about their kids. And they take on many roles. When you're a coach, it doesn't matter if you're an Alonzo Carter. It doesn't matter if you're a Nick Saban. You've got 75 guys on your football team, probably 45 different personalities, and you've got to figure out how to relate to everybody. And a lot of you will remember a couple of days ago, we had Don Brace on this program. Played for the Syracuse 1959 national title team. One of the things that he talked about with his head coach then, Ben Schwartzwalder, was that Schwartzwalder, he said, had an eye for assistant coaching talent. He knew how to hire the right guys. And Brennan clearly is going along the lines, the head coach of San Jose, of hiring the right assistants as he did in Coach Alonzo Carter. And I'm sure you've all seen the video. It went viral, man. He was still putting it down, and he could still do the little MC Hammer dance, and it was just awesome. And he's one of those coaches that plays that role. He talked about going back to Oakland and giving back to his community. You know, we just don't hear enough stories like that. Everything that's going on right now in the NCAA with, you know, Rick Pitino and Louisville and, you know, all these scandals that are going on a consistent basis that year after year we hear something, whether it's North Carolina and the paper classes, which they allegedly did twice, whether it's Cam Newton and all the alleged money that he took. Everybody knows about SMU by now and the death penalty. And, you know, that's the big topic of conversation right now and everything that's going on. I love hearing these stories. They are a breath of fresh air, and it reminds us why we play the game of football and why we love the game of football. Because at the end of the day, football is about unity, teamwork, commitment. We celebrate individualism way too much, and sometimes it's hard not to. When a guy like Tom Brady stays with one football team for his entire career, goes to 7 Super Bowls, wins 5 of them, and is 40 years old and still throwing for 300 yards, 400 yards in a football game. It's hard sometimes not to celebrate individualism. But fighting for the guy that's to your left, to your right, to your front, and to your back is everything that I was taught in football. And anytime I've ever had a job, I've carried that mentality over because that's what I was taught. Unfortunately, as we grow into our adulthood, we have a tendency to start getting jealous. We start watching over our backs. We start thinking that the next person is there to take our job. We start trying to protect ourselves more than help other people come up. One of my favorite all-time interviews, not because of just the honor that it was, but because of who he is as a man, was Coach Howard Schnellenberger. Do you know that Coach Howard Schnellenberger has raised up more NFL Hall of Fame coaches than any other coach in sports, or at least in football? Do you know that? See, Schnellenberger wasn't ever looking over his shoulder. He was looking to promote the next guy. And that's the problem with our society now. We live in a scared world, and sometimes it's deservedly so. I understand fear of losing your job. We've all got something to protect. Assets, family members, I get it. You see, Brennan and Carter are the type of coaches that I look at and go, they want to see other coaches succeed. They want to see other players succeed. Brennan wasn't afraid to get on television. He wasn't even at the center of the picture. It was Coach Carter. Brennan was off to the camera's right. He was all the way at the end of the line from everybody. That is a coach who is not afraid to promote other coaches. Believe me when I tell you, his assistants love that confident nature. And they also love that meekness as well. It's just an amazing story of an entire staff working together for the benefit of their football team. That's what I love about sports. That's the one part that is never going to change. With all the corruption and greed and selfishness that goes on from top to bottom, whether it's coaches, players, whether it's the NCAA heads, whatever it is, there are still people out there that have way more in mind than just winning championships. You know, sometimes a coach is a dad. Sometimes a coach is an uncle. Sometimes a coach is an only father figure. Sometimes a head coach is a big brother. Sometimes, you know, a coach can be anything. You start looking at ladies' sports. Sometimes a coach is a mom, a grandmother, a sister. A coach has to be 101 different things. And, of course, not one person can be everything. So what do? They put people in place that can be the things that you can't. And that is the eye of Brent Brennan. That's the eye that Don Brace was talking about with his coach for the 59 national title team at Syracuse and Ben Schwartzwalder. He had an eye for hiring assistants. He knew talent, but it was more than talent. It was the ability to see, you know what, this guy can relate to these players that I've recruited. And that's another thing. They've got to be recruiters. So then what do? They start hiring recruiters. Like, dude, I'm just going to hire somebody to go and recruit some of these people for me. And I'm going to tell you something. If the head coach shows up, that's a big deal. You are a wanted man if a head coach shows up. I think about Barry Switzer showing up to go after a big-time linebacker, the Boz, right into the lunchroom, points at him. You. What? Hey, coach, how's it going? Those are things that coaches are supposed to be. They've got to be creative. Their philosophies have to be different. They have to know how to be able to relate to a mass audience. They have to be able to sit down 75 players on a starting college football Division I roster, look at them all in the eyes, and get everybody on the same page. If anybody thinks that's easy, they are wrong. I am not the biggest Bob Stoops fan in the world. I'm really not. But he has one of my all-time favorite quotes. Quote, people think winning is easy, but it's not. End quote. If you think winning is easy, it's not. Quitting is easy. Giving up is easy. Failing is often easy. Not all the time, because sometimes you give everything that you've got and you still end up coming up short. That's why winning is hard, because you give it everything that you've got and you come up short. That's why winning is hard. There's nothing easy about it. And there's nothing easy about taking some of these kids that come from extremely harsh backgrounds and have some personal trouble of their own and mentoring them to being a different person. You know, Coach Zoe said that he loves shaping minds. It's a big deal, guys.
You can't touch this.
So I just think it's a really awesome story. We've got another awesome story coming up here in a couple of moments right here on the Full Court Press. Deshaun Watson, he gives his first game paycheck to hurricane victims down in Houston. I think it's really awesome. Great story. We're going to be talking about that a little bit later. We're going to be talking Green Bay football as they prepare to take on the Chicago Bears tonight. This is the Full Court Press. I am your host, Drew Duncan. You guys are checking me out live from the K-Sun Studios out here in Wichita, Kansas. I am on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, all at Drew Duncan 83. You can get your comments read live over the radio. You can get your personal messages read live over the radio. Whatever it is, talk to me. At Drew Duncan 83, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. We're going to take a quick sponsor break. We're going to be back right after this. Don't you dare touch that dial.
You can't touch this. You can't touch this. You can't touch this.